ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. Anybody going to summarize the 9th chapter, or what shall we do?
Yeah, I can do it, Shashiji.
Very good, Ritu.
Okay. So last week we talked about chapter 9, Raj Vidya Yoga. And in this chapter, Lord is asking Arjuna to listen with an open mind. He says, I'll give you the knowledge that is not just information, but I'll tell you about Lord's nature. And when we follow our universal dharma, or when we follow our path or life in accordance with universal dharma, results always it always results in eternal joy. In shloka 4th and 5th, he says, I am nacha masthani bhutani. I am in everything and all beings are in me. So it sounds like he's talking in riddles, but to explain this further, Shashiji gave the example of 2 examples. One is the waves and the ocean. Just like, so waves are dependent on the ocean, but ocean is not dependent on the waves. And the other example was the example of a dreamer. So when we dream, we have so many characters in the dream, and those characters, those experiences are dependent on the dreamer. But when the dream is completed, all that is gone and the dreamer has its own existence. We as dreamers, nothing changes. The dreamer itself is not affected by those experiences inside the dream. So just like that, our pure consciousness is always eternal and unchanging, like that dreamer, like the ocean. And nothing can happen to this principle, which is within us. And that's what Lord Krishna is saying. They are in me, and I'm not in them. Then further along in this chapter, Krishna says, don't look at me just as murtis in temples. Murtis are just symbolic, but I am everywhere. You can find me in all facets of life. You can find me in the grain of sand. You can find me in the smile of a grandparent and everything else that is in nature. I take care of everything for you, and I carry your load of yoga and kshema. Yoga is what we want to acquire, what we have, and kshema is the energy we put in protecting all that we have. And Krishna says, if you put too much stress on all this, you don't have to put too much stress on all that, because I can carry your load. Beautiful example for that was given, that when you're in a train, you still don't have to carry your bags. You can let them be. And one, Shashiji, that you always offer something in a chapter that is very practical to use, and that sort of, you go, aha. So for me, that aha in this chapter was that everything happens at just the right time. Just like the embryo, everything happens at the right time, and when the baby is born, from his teeth appearing at the right time to walking, you cannot rush those things. Just like that, for the rest of your life, everything else will also happen at just the right time. The knowledge will appear, the guru will appear, your strength to pursue your path will happen just at the right time. And in Shloka 26, Arjuna asks, so this all sounds good, Krishna, but how do I worship you? And Krishna says that your attitude in worshiping is very important. So both mind and action are important to build that relationship with your God. And your attitude should be like a child, of wonder, of being in awe, of worshiping Lord. And then you offer according to your capacity with your devotion. And that devotion, don't just keep it for the murtis and the temple, but do it in every action that you pursue in life. From your act of eating, which is nourishing to the body, to your tapas, which could be your exercise, your work, pradakshina, and every action in your life can be a worship to God. And loving for that higher ideal and working with that devoted thought is bhakti. And I think we ended there. So bhakti is actually following your path with that devotion to God, to that higher power.
Very good, Ritu. Very well said. Thank you so much. I will
Thank you.
add just one little part to it because this is something we'll have to reflect. When we spoke about the ocean and the waves analogy and how the ocean is independent, how the dreamer upon waking realizes everything is a dream, nothing has changed. I am the, waker who's ever there, right? Like that you said, consciousness in us is ever there. A practical point for us as we reflect on this is so many thoughts come and go, so many experiences come and go. Have I not been there throughout? It's a thought for us to reflect on because that'll give us more and more strength from within. That I have not changed. I, who went through all this, I'm still here. That ultimately it's that consciousness, but even that awareness will start bringing a little distance from all the how many thoughts we go through, right? It's a beautiful thing to think of. The waves will come and crash and go, and so many bizarre dreams happen, but I'm still here. The ocean's still there. So that's practically an important point, because we want to connect, as I said. So anyway, very well done. And thank you so much, Ritu, for doing that.
Thank you.
So now in chapter 9, we'll conclude it today, but there's something which I wanted to elaborate on a little today because we get a little, we sit up and say, what was that all about? When we hear this in the Bhagavad Gita. So here, Bhagavan is going to, in the next few shlokas that we are going to conclude 9th chapter with, Bhagavan's going to say, anybody who comes to me, I promise this, they will never perish. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, comforting message from Bhagavan, and that it can be a strength to us. No, my devotee, whether they approach me through bhakti and cultivate all those things, or whether they're doing karma yoga and they're loving me through their actions, or if they're intellectuals and studying scriptures, understanding, does not matter. These are all my devotees. That Artha Bhakta is also devotee, Artharthi is also devotee, a Jignasu is a devotee, a Jnani is a devotee. All of them, none of them will perish, he says. That's my promise. There's a very reassuring message here from here. And then question will come when we see a particular shloka here. Is there any partiality in the Lord's part? Does he favor some people and not others? And what is this thing that anyone can approach me? He sort of uses a few terms there. Let's see what it means, because he does say three there, and that can cause a little bit of apprehension in our parts and say, what is this all about? So we'll see that too. So Bhagavan says, somebody can repeat after me. Samoham sarvabhuteshu
Tamoham sarvabhutesu
na me dveshyusti na priyaha
na me dveshyostita na priyaha
ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya
ye bhajanti tu mang bhaktya.
Mayi te teshu chapyaham.
Mayi te suchapyaham.
Bhagavan says there's no partiality on my part. He says it's not like somebody is special and dear to me, and some people are not so dear to me. Right? Why is Bhagwan being so kind to somebody, and why is he not looking at this person, at all? That's not Bhagwan's attitude at all. Bhagwan is always ever available to me. The more and more we realize and we keep stressing in our own minds that Bhagwan is everywhere, all pervading, including me, within me, I think it's a very important thing that we should cultivate in our thoughts. So Bhagwan says, I'm available to all. But those who open their hearts to me, that's what he means when he says, those who worship me, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya, with love, they approach me, they are in me, and I am in them. That means we become one. The more you think of your baby, you and baby feel like you're one, right? That identification we need to cultivate. With baby, it's effortless, of course, but this is the thing we have to cultivate with Bhagwan, who's everywhere as well. So Bhagwan says, I'm not partial. I'm available to all, not just to the highly qualified people. I'm same to everybody. But you see, not all people want to think of Bhagwan. Not all people want to think of a total force, the truth which is everywhere. They're not interested in that. As long as we know, we feel no need, we are managing everything, we're controlling everything, everything is fine with me, fine. Bhagwan doesn't interfere. But when we seek this Lord and wonder, who's this? Who's behind all this? Who's that? I know so many people are around, but somebody is taking care of me. Who's giving me this life? Who's giving me this energy? Who's with me always? These questions start like burning questions in us. Who am I? All these questions start burning within us. That means we're opening our hearts to that Bhagavan. So very beautifully in our scriptures, many times, both Shankaracharya ji and in many examples, it's been said that, we cannot complain that our house is cold when we have the fireplace going on, blazing fire there, and we're sitting about, in a separate room. What's the point? We have to move close to that fire to feel the warmth of that fire. So we have to cultivate certain things within us to move close to that Bhagwan, meaning open your hearts, that there is a greater principle to which I want to connect, which is right within me right now. I'm not aware. I want to connect with that. That'll help me manifest the best. So Bhagwan says, I am not partial to anybody. Don't don't ever think like that. I'm open to everyone, but people are not like that. What can I do? Bhagwan keeps lamenting so many times. What can I do? He says. So, of course, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had a beautiful, saying to sort of reinforce this thought. He says, the winds of grace, Bhagwan's grace, is there all the time. All we need to do is set our sails right. You have to sort of set you know how much they do when they sail. The sailboats have to make sure it sort of is in the right direction so that the wind favors the movement of the boat, right? So we have to set our sails right, meaning open our hearts. This Lord is available to everybody, Bhagwan promises. And then when we do that, when we worship to our best capacity, whatever we can, we offer, we think and we love and we cultivate this relationship with the Lord. What does Bhagwan say? He says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा
Shashvat shanti nigacchati.
शश्वश्चान्तिं निगच्छति
Shashvat shantim nigacchati.
शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति
Kaunteya pratijanihi.
कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि
न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
न मे भक्त्य प्रणश्यति
न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
न मे भक्त प्रणश्यति
Bhagavan says, once who's turned towards me, once they have turned their mind towards me. Very soon their mind starts getting, mind, intellect, everything starts getting integrated, meaning the mind becomes quiet. With that love for Bhagwan, mind becomes quiet, and there'll be clarity in thinking. With that clarity in thinking, we're able to bring the best out of ourselves, becomes virtuous. And that means when we are able to do that, how much peace we have in our hearts when we are able to do that. Think about it. So see, Bhagwan says, there is no doubt, no matter who you are, you open your hearts, I will help you on this process. I will guide you on this process. I will send help from everywhere for this process, so that you will then for sure attain me. You will never perish. My bhaktas will never perish. And this message we've seen through the ages, through our Puranas, through even, stories, and through what we've heard as well, that, such devotees will never perish. This Bhakti Marga will never perish. The sadhanas will never perish. Bhakti, devotion will never perish. Bhagwan's promise is that, right? So many times, through the years, many people have sort of come to destroy and say, what is Bhakti? All blind belief. No, that it's not blind belief. We actually understand and cultivate it even to with greater understanding. Okay, so to this day scriptures are alive. To this day we read, but Jesus Christ's teachings are still alive, right? And then what the stories we've seen in the Puranas, whether it's the story of Valmiki, whether it's the story of Mirabai, whether it's the story of Prahlada, all of them go to show no matter what, no matter, even the dacoit Valmiki could become the greatest of Ratnakara, became the greatest saint Valmiki. No matter the child devotee, how much ever the father who was the king tried to persecute, that child's devotion stood him in good stead in the end. And his, goodness alone prevailed, his bhakti alone prevailed in the end, with the Narasimha Avatara coming for Prahlada. And Mirabai, her devotion to Krishna was so much, no matter what people had tried to do to her to destroy her, she remained ever steadfast in her devotion. And to this day, we sing her glories. So Bhagwan's promises, bhaktas will never perish. You turn to me, that's all. You start building your relationship with me. You start understanding who I am. I'm always available to you, he says. Now comes the topic that I want to sort of go over a little with all of you, so that we as Devis studying the Gita have a clear understanding and not get, neither should we react when we see such things. We should make sure that we understand it properly. And not only that, we should be able to convey this properly to others. That's the important thing, okay? Mam hi parthavyapashritya
Mam hi Vyapashtriya
vyapashritya
Yapatrish
vyapashritya
Yapatrisya
yepi syuv papayonayaha
Yepi Papayonayaha
Priyo Vaishyastatha Shudraha
Triyo Vaishyastata Shudra Saha
Tepi Yanti Param Gatim.
Tepi Yanti Param Gatim.
Of course, what it says is, Partha, whoever approaches me, even if they have absolutely no thinking, discriminating capacity, they can't do any viveka, okay, or they've committed great, offenses, right? Or, according to what it said here, women, according to what is it, traders, the Vaishyas, or even the laborer class, if they turn towards me, they will also attain supreme gati. Now, this would really make, any woman who has not understood the import of this sit up and say, excuse me. You would say that. There's no doubt about it. But we are going to understand this properly. And then we are going to make sure that this message is conveyed properly as well. So, let's just look at it in the face value and think, okay, maybe during Lord Krishna's times, In those times, maybe men were, dominating, and were saying this knowledge is not for women. Just like the Brahmanas in our, days also said this Upanishad knowledge is only for Brahmins, right? That used to happen too. Would have probably is happening even now in India anyway. So Lord Krishna said, "Excuse me, who on earth said that? Who on earth said that? My path is open to everybody. All they have to do is open their hearts to me." It does not mean just because a person is a woman, or a person is a trader, or a person is a Vaishya, or one a laborer class, they can't turn to me. It could have been the meaning. But that's not the meaning of the Gita's message. Please, how could Bhagavan even say that when the message of Gita is so lofty, and every point Bhagavan is hammering, I'm in you, you're in me. I'm all pervading. From me alone, everything has come. When that's the case, we should understand the shloka properly. First and foremost, who's a human being? Or who's any living creature, actually, for that matter? All living creatures have life. All living creatures have a physical body made of matter. Whether it's your brain, whether it's your heart, whether it's your liver, lungs, kidney, etc., everything is matter. Matter and the functions that go on is energy, interconvertible. Matter and energy are inert. So we have inert things in our body, plus we have that consciousness, that sentient principle. Bhagavan himself in chapter 7 called the inert matter as Prakriti. That's a feminine term. Does not mean a feminine physical body. It's a feminine term. Let me be very clear about this. Now, you look at a man, you look at a woman, you look at a worm, you look at a horse, you look at a cow. Everything has Prakriti in it. Huh? Everything has life principle in it. So, our in Sanskrit language, actually, that's a difficult part sometimes. When Sanskrit grammar, when you study, it has both male and female gender for everything. The same thing can be called, sometimes referred to in a feminine gender, as sometimes being called in a masculine gender as well. We know that people who study Sanskrit know these things clearly. So Sanskrit in that language is female, male, gender as well as neuter gender used. But as far as this human physical body or any living creature, we are made of both the consciousness sentient principle as well as the Prakriti, which is a feminine term used for matter. Feminine term does not mean a woman. It just means a feminine term. Please be careful about this. But having said that, there's surely throughout the times, or people want to cause problems because they want to exhibit their control, their power. What have they done? They've used all these things to cause disintegration and fractions in society, bring disharmony, and then to indiscriminately make, project differences. People love that. That's not changed even to this day, please. That's why all of us have to stand up and say, excuse me, sorry, this is not the way you do this. I need the same salary as that, colleague of, we still have to fight for all these things even to this day. So what has happened, knowledge becomes a monopoly of a few people through the times. And even religion came under the ownership of certain communities, which we saw with the Brahmin community. It happened. And then very soon, what people love to do is interpret scriptures to suit their views and their opinions. And what happens? They monopolize and then they maintain control. So Gita is a universal scripture. Its teaching holds good for all times, not for just Arjuna was just an instrument Bhagavan used so that this could remain for time immemorial, that we could follow that and live a life of harmony and peace and bringing out our best potential. It was never meant to be for a particular community or to particular gender, but to all humans. It is for humans. To secretly promote intolerance cannot be the message of a holy scripture like this. Cannot be. It's people who do all these mischiefs. People who do all these things. And as I said, throughout Bhagavan has been saying, right from the start when he started the 7th chapter, what did he say? I'm giving you this special knowledge. Listen carefully, Arjuna. It's about me. And then he starts off by saying, all these elements, bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, kam, mano, buddhirevacha, everything has come from me. Now, if it's come from the Lord, one source alone, what is superior, what is inferior? Tell me. And then, so we have to understand the implications of all those things that Bhagavan is constantly showing us, constantly showing. And religion, again, please, let's understand whatever teachings we get in our religion, right? Religion is, what is practically, practical things which the philosophy has proclaimed, which will aim, which will take us to the final goal. The practical application in life, which philosophy has proclaimed. Philosophy alone is mere book knowledge. Religion without, rituals and things without understanding is of no use. They have to be going together, and then alone it's meaningful. Okay? So, religion is not just meant for a physical male body or a physical female body to beautify it. That is not the criteria for the use of religion. Each of us is potentially divine. Each one of us. That divinity should be manifested in this life and is the birthright of all of us. All of us. So spiritual practices will help to bring integration of our thinking, that is our mind and intellect, aligned. So our speech gets aligned, our actions get aligned. When that happens, we rise to the highest potential in us. And you know what? Right here, right now, we manifest that divinity in life. Right now. This is the purpose of all this study. Knowledge should bring us results. When we study, it has to mean something to us, and we should be able to use it in life. Otherwise, what's the use? And then we have people misinterpreting scriptures to their advantage and saying it belongs to certain groups of people, or saying that this one is inferior is wrong. So let's understand what this 3 here means, what this Vaishya here means, what this Shudra here means. We have to be clear about that. So first of all, an emotion of deep attachment is regarded in a feminine nature. It's in Sanskrit, it'll be explained in raga, it'll be said. So it is deep attachment. Deep attachment. It can be likes and dislikes. It's be deep attachment as well. And you think about it. When we have attachments without clearly understanding the implications, what do we try to do? We try to hold on to it. We have certain expectations because of that attachment. And when we hold on to it, we're afraid we'll lose it, right? And then we'll worry about it. Although our child is somewhere far away in college, you've done all the right things and the child is doing well in school, I worry about my kid. Why? Why should you worry? You've done your job. And are you taking care of the kid far away in your college, in the college? You have absolutely zero control. But here we are. Worry. So we do all this when that sense of attachment is not properly thinking attachment. Loving is not wrong, but that attachment is wrong. With that, it brings expectations, that brings fear, that brings worries, and it just dissipates our energy. So that's used in a feminine term. Okay, that's the first thing. Then what about the Vaishyas? Means people who are very extroverted, very materialistic, have no time to turn to the Lord. Okay, that's the second group. And the attitude of laziness, inadvertence, which also we have in us sometimes. Let's not just classify it to a group of people. That is a low attitude even in us. Now you think about it. Each one of these can become our stumbling blocks in life. Each one of these are deep attachments, too much of our extrovertedness and focusing on only material things, and even that laziness and inadvertence will cause us problems. Lord Krishna is saying, if you are struggling with such things, if you are struggling with such things in your own self, if you open your hearts to me, I will provide you help, resources, guidance, so that you can come out of it and actually blossom forth. Our scriptures will not call us Amrutasya Putraha. In Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it's a very famous statement. Shrunvantu Vishve Amrutasya Putraha, it says. It says, you're all children of immortality. That's our birthright. To know our true nature, to manifest it in this life, is our birthright. Why would Lord Krishna use something like a woman cannot get this knowledge and I'll give that knowledge? No way. Don't let people say this to you. Okay? This is very important for us to remember the correct import of such statements and say, in no way does it have. A man can have these tendencies as well. A physical male, right, can also have these. Can have all these. They might be struggling with these too. So Bhagavan says, don't worry. Nothing is a stumbling block. And let's just eat. So having said that, we see people who still propagate such things in the world even to this day at every level of society, where somebody is more superior than another person, somebody is eligible for this and not others in subtle ways. It's still, unfortunately, even in most advanced countries, it happens. So to stand up for that, to say, I want, what? I've understood from the Gita that there's no difference between you and me in every way. So I'm your equal in every respect. So, I have every right to understand this underlying oneness from that point, not just because I'm a female or not even from that point. Understanding from the substratum, there's no difference between you and me. And to stand up, and then that clarity, you stand up and you fight for our whatever has to be fought for, rightfully so, where we want to get involved. You see the punch that comes from that. You see the strength that comes from that. That is a different strength when we are trying to fight with even the superficialities of a male and a female body, I'm telling you. There is no difference. Bhagavan Krishna would not be promoting such teaching, and we goddesses, Devi, should be so clear in our mind about this. That oneness is same everywhere. So Bhagavan is saying, hey, Arjuna, there might be people who might be thinking of, people either in those days, in those times, if you want to think of it as what Bhagavan Krishna might have said, okay, that Stri, Vaishya, Shudras, or people without any, clarity in their thinking, if they turn to me and I will be available for them. Or you can think that even to this day, people struggling with all kinds of mental, negativities, which actually is the way to look at this shloka. Bhagavan Krishna says, all they have to do is open their hearts to me. My Bhakti University has admissions for all. Bhakti University has admission to all of them. It is accessible to everybody, right? And there's nobody highly qualified, less qualified, including this bhakti. This will be available for everyone, starting from the worst offender to a great sage. Available for all. So Bhagavan then beautifully concludes with a take-home message now. He says, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer, but please let this idea sink in us, and let it sink in us with clarity. Because we women who listen to the Gita and who are now gathering all the knowledge from that should be even more clear what Gita is all about. Even though we're getting glimpses of it, we should be clear what the main message, take-home message of Gita is. It's a message of oneness. It's a message of manifesting divinity here and now. Okay, so let's see the next shloka. Again, very famous. Manmana bhava madbhaktaha
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तः
madhyaji mam namaskuru
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam
मामवैष्यसि युक्तवैत्वम्
atmanam matparayanaha.
आत्मानं मत्परायणः.
Bhagavan says, you will certainly reach me. What should I do, Bhagavan? What is the secret you're telling me? How should I reach you? He says, if you keep your mind in me all the time, this should be our goal. Bhagavan is, and I'll explain some more. Bhagavan should be our goal because I want to be able to be united with this Lord so that I can bring the best in my life. So that's my goal. And I should have love for that goal. Otherwise, you can't pursue anything, right? In life too. I should have love for that Lord. And then I should worship that Lord, he says. You do all these things and you surrender to me and let there be humility. You are sure to attain me, Bhagavan says. But you think about it. In any field, this is what we have to do. If we want to do our best in anything we take up, right? First of all, that should be preoccupying my mind. And I should love that. And I should be sacrificing everything towards that end. Right? Then we are able to achieve anything. Just take an Olympic swimmer. What do? The parents' lives, their life is all spent in that training, dedicated to that. Because they love it and they want to excel in that. So Bhagavan says, if you want to excel in my Bhakti University, you do this as well, he says. But most beautiful of all this is turning to Bhagavan, thinking, as I told you, so many examples, just bringing the thought that, look, I have an opportunity here to see something which is very, very special, that there is a oneness everywhere. Even the thought, I told, right? When we start bringing that is loving that Bhagavan, thinking of that Bhagavan, and worshipping that Bhagavan. And then our life will be filled with love, filled with compassion, filled with this longing to serve everybody. It'll become that. There is no doubt about it. The Lord Bhagavan is showing us through practical things how we can, in every part of our life, bring this spirit of service and maintain that love throughout. Okay? Not the love which waxes and wanes, but that steady love which pours out of our hearts. So this is this greatest knowledge that Bhagavan promised in the 9th chapter, where he called this Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam, the greatest secret, the kingly knowledge, because there's nothing greater than this. Okay, it's extremely purifying, means it keeps your mind absolutely undisturbed, at peace. Our inner transformation is sure to happen, Bhagavan says. And with that comes tremendous love, and with that love, that spirit of service to all. And when do I realize this? When do I get this? Right here, in this life. You don't have to wait for many, many lives. Right here. And when we are involved in such things, definitely our families get integrated. One person practicing this will bring families together and, bring societies together, bring communities together, and if, possible, even nations together. And Bhagavan says the results of this are infinite, never can be destroyed, imperishable. Beautiful message of the 9th chapter. And let us see whether we can at least get into the 10th chapter. I was hoping to complete that. Let's see. Yeah, 15 minutes. I might. Chapter 10 is called Vibhuti Yoga. That is seeing one in all. That means seeing that one Lord in everything. How do I appreciate the Lord? I keep my eyes open all the time. How can I see Bhagavan who's everywhere? You keep saying that you're everywhere in everything, Bhagavan. What does it mean to see Bhagavan everywhere? So this is a very beautiful chapter where Bhagavan starts with What a lovely way he starts this. I love all the way he introduces his chapters sometimes. When he talks, he says something so sweet. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Julie?
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Bhuya Eva Mahabaho
भूय एव महाभावो
Shunu Me Paramam Vachaha
शृणु मे परं वचः
Yatteham Priyamanaya
यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय
Vakshyami Hitakamyaya.
वक्ष्यामि हितकामया
Vakshyami Hitakamaya. Bhagavan says, Arjuna, I'm going to say something to you, which you know why I love you. I love you, Arjuna, my best friend. I love you. Okay. And he says, these words are for your good, your welfare, your well being. If somebody says, I'm going to say something which is going to be so good for you, we'll all be right, we'll all love it. They're thinking of my good, my welfare, right? He says, I'll tell you. And then he says, these are not only for your well being, you'll also love it. You see what I'm going to tell you, love what I say. And he says, people don't know that I'm that one source. So many people have no idea, even very learned people have no idea that I'm the only one source from which everything has come. That means if that's the only source, we're all coming from that one source alone. And so he says, not only what you see outside in the world, there's so many different variety of things, but within each person, any thought. Now you see what he says in one of the shlokas. He'll say, whether it's our knowledge, whether it's say forgiveness, whether it's truth, whether it's this ability to control our mind and senses, whether it's joy or sorrow, fear or courage, non-injury, equanimity, whatever thoughts that we have, and strengths that we have within as far as emotions, physical strength, everything can be there only because of me. Meaning, if consciousness was not there, nothing would have been there. So because everything is arising because I'm here. I'm the source of everything. All pairs of opposites, all good noble thoughts, even something terrible, the life source is only one thing. You can't blame the electricity for once giving light, once giving, turning as a fan. But without electricity, nothing can run. I am, but many people don't know this, is what Bhagavan is trying to say. Now, this chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti Yoga, and I'll explain Vibhuti Yoga, but let's look at this beautiful shloka number 7, and then I'll explain Vibhuti Yoga as well as Avikampena Yoga. Three words that he's used here. I'll explain that. Etam vibhutim yogam cha
Etam vibhuti yogam cha
mama yo vetti tattvataha
mama yo vetti tattvataha
so vikampena yogena
so vikampena yogena
yujyate natra samshayaha.
yujyate natra sanshayah.
So Bhagavan says, look, I'm going to talk to you about this vibhuti. I'm going to talk about yoga. And then she says, once somebody knows that, they will be established in this avikampena yoga. What is that? Three things he's used. Okay. Bhuti. Bhuti means something which is there. I'll give you some funny examples. But anyway, something which is there. Okay, that's there. But then you add V to that. It means, it's something more glorious, something more special. So Bhagwan alone was there. But then what happened? He manifested as this variety. Oh my goodness, Lord's glory everywhere. That's his vibhuti. Everything is his Bhagwan's glory. Bhagwan alone was there. Bhuti means was there. Manifestation everywhere. That's his glory. Everything. That's vibhuti. And then what is yoga? Yoga means connecting back. returning back, uniting back. With what? To that Paramatma who's already in me. So you can turn inwards and unite with the Lord. You can open your eyes and see that glory of that same Lord. So the funny thing, I was thinking about examples for this, and I said, if you just have plain dosa, it's just plain dosa. But you add some masala and then you have your chutneys and you have your sambar. Aha! You'll run to so many restaurants for those, right? You have your favorite places in India. So anyway, I was thinking about this restaurant in Bangalore about that. And so my thought went off in another direction. So coming back, masala dosa is like vibhuti of dosa, okay? Anyway, so Bhagwan says, look, my glory is this manifestation. That's my vibhuti. And that yoga, you can, here in particular, there'll be other meanings also, but here is turning inwards and connecting to that Paramatma within. So if, what is this Avikampena yoga then? If when we open our eyes and we're able to understand, that Bhagwan alone is manifesting as everything. That means we are connecting with that Bhagwan always with our eyes open. And when we sit quietly in meditation, totally absorbed and identified with that Lord, that Paramatma, who's always within us, then what happens? We are in that Avikampena yoga. What means this yoga where there is no tremor. That unity is so strong, we're unshaken. Because whether we open our eyes, we are with Paramatma. Whether we close our eyes, we are with Paramatma. Meaning that understanding of oneness never leaves us. Never leaves us. So Bhagwan is saying, if you come to know this Vibhuti Yoga of mine, if you understand this and you're established in this, for you, I'm ever, ever there. So what happens? We're all practically, what does it mean being with Bhagwan here and looking at Bhagwan? I don't see Bhagwan. I'm only seeing lots of things around me. Practically what happens? Our mind is absolutely established in peace. There is absolute calmness. There is an independent joy in our hearts all the time. And also, when I open my eyes and face this world of plurality, so many different things, I'm able to deal with everything with a very balanced, equanimous approach. Everything we can handle because that vision of oneness never goes away, and that understanding is in my heart, in my mind all the time, that I'm able to operate at a different level of understanding. Compassion is a nature of mine then, which will come out. Love is my nature, which will translate. Service is my nature, which will translate when I deal with the world. And when challenges come, the strength comes from within. I'm able to withstand anything. This is the practical implication of that Avikampa yoga. Avikampena yoga means established in that vision of oneness. When you look out, when you look in. Okay, so what do we become like? We become like that beacon of light from the lighthouses. Waves are thrashing constantly. There might be thunder and lightning. But my goodness, that light is the light of hope for so many peoples lost in the sea. That light is our light, which can become the, guiding light for so many in life. And that light will be our source of strength at all times. We are unshaken no matter what. This is what is the meaning of Avikampena yoga. If you know my Vibhuti and if you unite yourself with me, you will remain in this all the time. Now, how do we appreciate this Bhagwan who's everywhere, right? So, Lord Krishna, I'll go through a few styles because he's going to promise something for us, and then we'll go through appreciating Bhagwan's presence everywhere. So, what he says is, look, Arjuna, I told you the ways to worship me, right? And if you worship me and you start understanding my presence everywhere, as well as, through meditation, you connect yourself and become peaceful, he says, I will take responsibility and make you understand exactly my ultimate tattva. What is our consciousness? What is this Brahman? What is this Atman? Right? You don't struggle. Through appreciating, through keeping your mind quiet, through doing your karma yoga, through doing your bhakti practices, you just do all those things. And when you do that, if your mind is constantly in that, he says, I will make sure that you gain the knowledge of your true nature. Who exactly are you? That there'll be complete clarity, because that is ultimately the purpose of our life, to understand our true nature. That's Bhagwan's promise now. He says, all you have to do is be on this path. Start appreciating me everywhere. So now Arjuna is very curious. Huh? He says, he's just overwhelmed hearing about Bhagwan promising all this and saying, I'm telling you this for your welfare. I'm the source of everything. I'm the cause for everything. When he says all this, Arjuna is like, who can be more compassionate than this Lord? So he says, please, please tell me about all your glories. This vibhuti you're talking, you say it's everywhere. How do I appreciate that? And what does it mean to look at your glory? What does it mean to all of us? Huh? Because I mean, a tree is a tree. A plant is a plant. Okay, sometimes I look at some flower and I appreciate it. But the way you're saying it looks like everything is so glorious. Everything is your vibhuti. Don't leave anything, Bhagwan. You please tell every last bit. And Bhagwan very nicely confesses to Arjuna. He says, Arjuna, there is no end to my glories. I can only give you some examples. But truly, everything is my glory. But what happens is when we see something special, you know how our heart stirs, or we just are in awe and we just don't know, we lose words. He says, I will show you some examples like that. And when you see that and when you start keeping your mind in that, slowly you will start appreciating me everywhere. So, you know, we all need practice. It's like this. When you are teaching your little kid alphabets, right? A, this is B, this is C, right? The kid is sort of struggling to even identify that from a book. Then what happens? Suddenly they're looking at something, some other writing and say, that's A, this is B, right? How they recognize, like that Bhagwan is showing some big things first and then giving examples from, he chooses examples from everything. Be it history, be it, you know, things from heaven, be it grammar, be it literature, be it seasons. He uses everything to tell us, to bring our attention. And then afterwards, we will develop that subtlety in our eyes, in our understanding, to appreciate the Lord everywhere. So now this Bhagwan, which we're not going to go over a lot of, shlokas in this. I'll mention a few and see what it means to us. And in this, before I start this, there's a very beautiful topic we take up in our Balavihar classes for the 4th grade children. It's called the 24 Gurus. And it's an Avaduta teaching. It's called Avaduta teaching, where a king of the country is, traveling, just making sure everything's going right. And he sees a child sitting there looking so peaceful and happy. And the king wonders, how is this child so happy when I, the king of the land who has everything, how come I'm not as peaceful and happy as that child? So he says, I want to know the secret. Let me talk to this kid. So he goes to the child and he says, what is it that keeps you so happy? What makes you so happy? The child says, I don't have to do anything. I've just learned it all from my teachers already. So now the king says, please take me to your teachers right away. I want to meet your teachers so they can tell me the secret. And the child says, I don't have to go anywhere. My teacher is the sun. My teacher is the earth. My teacher is the moon. My teacher is a tree. My teacher is a snake. My teacher is a bee. Anything and everything actually can teach us something. Anything and everything can show us some beautiful thing which actually can translate in our life. This is seeing Bhagwan's vibhuti and bringing it into our life. Because we too are that manifestation of that Lord alone. We too have all those virtues and qualities. So like hidden under, this burning coal hidden under ash. That's how we all are right now. So many examples Bhagavan gives. We'll just look at a few. He says, among the great devotees, I'm Prahlada. So when you read Prahlada Charita, when you see his unswerving devotion, nothing scares him, we say, I want to have that type of love for the Lord. Nothing should shake that love. And when he says, Stavaranam Himalaya, look at amongst all the mountains and the Himalayas, when he says that, just look at a mountain range. Unshaken, no matter what happens through storms, unshaken in the ground, nothing shakes a mountain, right? So how do I remain in life when all kinds of experiences come to me? How do I remain unshaken? What can I do to bring those qualities in me? Sitting on the ocean side when you're beautifully, it's so beautiful, we're admiring the ocean and the vastness and the thinking of its depth. May that depth and maturity in my thinking come in this life alone. May I develop an expansive vision so I embrace more and more people, forget and forget trivial things, so that I don't get stuck in them. Let my vision be expansive. This is seeing glory of Bhagwan everywhere. This is bringing Bhagwan into our life. So too, looking at the sun, may my life be brilliant. May what I do be even if it's a small act, may there be something bright and may it be done well. That is bringing brilliance and illumination into everything in life, right? And then when you study the Ramayana, right, and you see his dharmic way of living, nothing would shake him, and how he sort of maintained that. How can we remain on the path of righteousness? What are the things in this chapter of Sri Ramayana that I read? What are the things that I can reflect upon? How can it help me? And you see an animal in a zoo, just not seeing a lion, but lion is never afraid. Fearless it is. May that quality come in me. Standing next to a beautiful, the Ganga, her flow, always known for her purity, always known for her holiness. May my life become that type of, pure life. Pure life where mind is bringing the best. And Lord Krishna says, now you look. He says, among my feminine glories. Now Krishna is saying, my feminine glories. He says, I'm fame. I'm wealth. I'm the eloquence in speech. I'm memory. I'm the ability to retain knowledge. I'm the fortitude. I'm forgiveness. Now, does it belong only to women? Or does it belong to both a man and a woman? These are all glories of a person. So Bhagavan says, there's no end to my glories. I only said a few. And if people complain and say, Bhagavan, all these are, Puranas you've taken, Vedas you've taken, some character, I don't know, some rishis you said, what do? Just look around. Look around in everything. And so he says, very compassionately, somebody please repeat this shloka. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam.
Yadya vibhuti matsatvam
Shrimad urjitameva va.
Srimadurjitameva va
Tattad evavagachatvam.
tattadevavagachatvam
Mama tejomsha sambhavam.
mama tejom sambhavam.
He says, oh, if you have that difficulty, don't struggle. Anything glorious, wondrous that catches your eye. You might stand near the Grand Canyon and just marvel. You don't have words. Your mind stands still. You stand near the Niagara, you just don't feel like saying a word. Or the beauty of the Taj Mahal. How many years of dedicated work to build this monument which is still standing. Or it can just be a beautiful sunset. How did Bhagwan manage to paint the sky like that? How did that happen? A harvest moon, that peace that comes to our heart. Oh, that first smile of that little newborn, or the smile at any time of a new baby, the toothless smile, how much joy it brings to us. And when you see expertise in any field, dancers, musicians, dedication, their hard work, their energy, everything bringing forth their best. That's all Bhagwan's manifestation. And when you see people working for these non-profit organizations, pouring their heart and soul, doing that selfless work day after day after day, looking not for rewards, not for anything, any of those things are all we are manifesting the glory of that Bhagwan. These are all Bhagwan's vibhutis. So this is only when you see that, when you see big things like that, if you keep thinking, this is Bhagwan's manifestation, if we make this a practice and also say some of these beautiful things, what can I do to bring that in my life? And also then we'll start appreciating in every small thing, beginning with the act of cooking to anything that we do. Our life will just be permeated by the thought of that oneness. And you see how we feel after that. So this is Bhagavan's Vibhuti Yoga, the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is just so beautiful, helping us to appreciate the manifestation of the Lord, which is all Lord's glory alone. Okay, now let me just go to I'll complete and then I'll open for questions. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.